Happy morning. I'm sure there must be somebody in life who has blossomed with your love. So happy Valentine's Day to you too. Normally, love happens in two ways. One, you decide to create love. और तुम किसी के पीछे पड़ जाते हो. मेरे को तो ये चाहिए ही चाहिए. Like a child's love for ice cream, an adult's love for a brand new phone. That love is more about possessiveness. मेरे को ये चाहिए ही चाहिए. जिद. Then the second kind of a love is where you don't even realize and one day the awareness happens that you are in love. It very slowly creeps into your life. The way a mother feels love for the child. You know, when the news of pregnancy comes to a lady for the first time, she might be scared. Oh my God, how will the pregnancy go? I don't know what will happen to the future of the child. I don't know whether I'll be a great mother or not. But then, as life goes by, either during pregnancy itself or after the child is born, you start experiencing joy purely because of the presence of that person in your life. Now, a 3-month-old child cannot love you the way you want to be loved, but their presence fills you with joy. When somebody's presence fills you with joy, you realize there is love. And there's also a third way in which we experience love. When one day we realize somebody loves us very deeply. And that's a very pleasant feeling. Oh, I have realized now that you love me so much. Now that fills your emotional reservoir like nobody's business. Somebody values you, somebody looks up to you, somebody cherishes you, and you are filling somebody's life with joy. That love is very good for our self-esteem. Other loves is different. And this love, कि मुझे पता ही नहीं चला कि तुम मुझसे इतना प्यार करते हो, is a very deep, cute, चलो दुनिया में किसी को तो समझ में आया kind of a feeling. So for that feeling, and I'm sure some of you would have realized that, at least by some faces that I see, I can make out where you are saying, yeah, Naren, correct, I understand what you're saying. हमारे साथ ऐसा ही हुआ है. In college, if you have liked someone and they come and propose to you, and you realize, acha, somebody loves me. And you might have said yes because you don't want to take any chance. दूसरा कोई इतना प्यार करेगा नहीं करेगा मालूम नहीं. पहला जिसने ऑफर किया तुरंत on the spot, okay. Because somebody is looking forward to having you in life. मतलब ये एक बहुत बड़ी feeling होती है. But today we are going to weave a beautiful tapestry out of life lesson. We will make it a little experiential, where we will get involved with each other. And by the time we complete at 9, my promise to you, it will be a very deep, very profound, very meaningful life lesson. And all of us who are present here will be glad that you woke up early on a Sunday morning and made yourself present for this extraordinary experience. Let us do something else. I will give you a small scenario, a very small scenario, maybe 4 sentences. And then I would want you to do something. Acha, before that, let's do something else. Write down the names of 4 people whom you think you know well. Write down the names of 4 people whom you think you know well. Now, there is no competition there's no test on how well do you know. So, I'm not going to do that. We are doing something very beautiful. You'll really like it. Write down names of 4 people whom you believe you know well. And also write down my name. मतलब ये 5 लोगों का लिस्ट हो जाएगा. Now I'm going to explain to you this small scenario. Are you all ready? Excellent. What's the scenario? You go to the airport. You need to catch the flight to reach your destination. And you realize you made a mistake. And instead of 5 p.m., the flight was supposed to fly off at 3 p.m. So you reach the airport at 3:30, very confident about the 5 o'clock flight. And you realize it was a 3 p.m. flight. पढ़ने में गलती हो गई. It was written 15:00 hours, and for some reason, the mind captured it as 5 p.m. Now, what is the exercise? So write down how would these 5 people whom you have written about would react to this scenario. And definitely write the emotions you think they will feel. Let me share with you another scenario. Well, was this exercise clear to all of you? Let me share with you another scenario. They gave you, with a lot of excitement, the latest brilliant phone that they have purchased. They wanted you to see it. It dropped from your hand and it broke. The screen broke. How will these people react? Very honestly, very objectively, you can write your assumptions. Okay. You would have written their reactions, maybe a sentence or two. And you would have written probably the emotions that they felt. Is it the same response by all of them, or is it different? Same response. So what is the same response, let's say, Joe?
So in case it's you and I have missed the flight, so you would have said, "Koi baat nahi, dusra book kar le." And when the phone also falls off, you would have laughed and said, "Koi baat nahi, naya jayega." So I can remember the same statement, "Koi baat nahi," from your response in both situations.
Okay. And what about the other 4 people?
Other 4 people is also almost the same.
Okay.
Like Misha is there, and Misha would have, smiled if I miss the flight. Even when I break her phone ka glass, I'm so confident. She will smile and say, well, it won't be any big thing, kind of thing for her as well.
Okay. Others? Vikas?
Because Naren, in your case, you would have said कोई बात नहीं, when I miss the flight, कोई बात नहीं, कुछ सीख ले, आगे बढ़. पल्लवी, अरे
हाँ,
अब क्या करोगे, दूसरी फ्लाइट ले सकते हो क्या? उस
हाँ.
सब भी ध्यान रखना चाहिए, नुकसान हो गया. एंड माय मदर वुड हैव बीन, शायद तेरा जाना जरूर नहीं होगा, तेरा काम नहीं होने वाला था, इसलिए फ्लाइट ही हो गया. एंड अनुराग वुड बी जस्ट सेड ओके. सेकंड सिनेरियो, द फोन ब्रोक, यू वुड हैव बीन सेड थोड़ा रिस्पॉन्सिबल बनना चाहिए. Pallavi would have been said, can we repair the screen? Let's go to Pimpri and let it repair it. Get it repaired. And my father would have said, वो पुराना वाला चालू है कि वो वापस वापरना चालू कर दे.
हाँ, नया फोन नहीं मिलेगा और पुराना वाला वापरो. There is something called facts and there is something called perception. Actually, this wouldn't have happened, but we have some perceptions about how somebody will respond. What is this perception? What do I mean by perception? Listen carefully. Perception are the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of the world we live in. My perceptions are the stories I tell myself to make sense of the world. Perception can also be called as stories because you visualize the story inside your head. That if it breaks, this is how they will respond. It's a story you're telling yourself. And the reason for stories is through stories we make sense of the world. Now, if you go back to that exercise, you will realize in the same scenario, different people are narrating different stories. So Vikas is right because he knows those people that this is the way they are going to respond. Now their response is based on the stories they tell themselves. So for a Pallu it can be, अभी करना क्या है, सिर्फ उसमें ध्यान दो. फ्लाइट मिस हो गया, चलो नेक्स्ट फ्लाइट पकड़ सकते हो क्या? कांच टूट गया, चलो पिंपरी जा सकते हैं क्या? फॉर हर इट्स अबाउट एग्जीक्यूशन. काम को आगे बढ़ाओ. व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेप? फॉर द मदर इट कैन बी सरेंडर टू लाइफ, ट्रस्ट लाइफ. अगर ये हुआ है तो इसके पीछे कुछ मीनिंग हो. नाउ फॉर विकास, for Naren, in Vikas's mind, the story of Naren says, he will always look at what can be learnt out of it. So he's looking at, अच्छा इसमें क्या सीखा? अच्छा, you can be more responsible now onwards, right? This is what you've learned, okay? Not a problem. सीखा क्या तूने उससे? And for a Bhausa, it can be, money is important. मनी वेस्ट नहीं होना चाहिए. इधर नुकसान हो गया, उधर और खर्चा नहीं करने का, अभी पहला वाला जो है उसी में करो. सो मनी इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ लाइफ और फालतू में खर्चा नहीं करने का. नाउ ऑल दीज पीपल, एंड अनुराग he didn't say in detail about the second experience. In all these cases, 4 different people are telling different stories to make sense of what has happened. So the story Naren says is, okay, this is an opportunity to learn. This is the story he's telling himself. And a Pallu says a different story. For her, it's not about learning, it's about moving on. And this is how people make sense of the world in which they live. Now, if all of them debate on right and wrong, it will lead to a lot of argument. The fact is, I was late to the airport. The fact is, the screen of the phone has broken. But the perception of this fact becomes different for different people. Facts don't change. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade is a fact. Whatever has born will also die is a fact. I will never be able to live up to everybody's expectations is a fact. All of us are here together in life lessons. This is a fact. Sometimes some of us get engaged and we are vocal and we share, we express doubts, we ask questions. This is a fact. Now, different people will see your involvement in different ways based on the story they tell themselves. Somebody might say, बहुत shining मारता है. Somebody might say, इतना क्यों confused रहता है? Somebody might say, they are bold. The fact was that you share, you ask questions, you get engaged. But everybody will have a perception based on that fact. We live our life often not based on facts, but based on the meaning that I make of life based on that fact. So hold on to these two statements as I take you through another journey. What is the statement? We do not often live our life based on facts. We live our life based on perception of some facts. Let me give you an example. Young man, let's say his name is Raj. Raj's father left the family when he was 5 years old. Now, this abandonment caused a deep psychological hurt to Raj. He grew up in life fearing I should not come close to people because then when people leave, it gives a lot of pain. Raj had his mother and 3 more siblings to take care of. Now imagine, after 25 years, Raj's father calls him again and says, I would like to meet you. Now, the moment his father says, I would like to meet you, Raj's perception of the father leaving and going was, Papa abandoned us. It means he didn't love us. Now, this is the surface level thought. Please listen very carefully. I am attempting to build something very deep. Raj's perception is, father left us He abandoned us. He didn't love us at all. The fact is, father left the family. He didn't love us at all is a perception. It is not a fact. The father has not told we don't love you. Chances are the father was scared. I may not be able to take care of the family's financial needs. Chances are father found he's not strong enough and responsible enough, and therefore he will let down the whole family by his presence. Chances are the father made a big financial loss. If he had stayed with the family, everybody would have gone through a lot of trouble and a lot of trauma. He decided to leave, to face the world all by himself, and not let it allow to affect his family. So the fact can be different. But the perception of Raj is, Papa abandoned us, for he did not love us at all. He was a very, very selfish person. Now this is the story Raj will tell himself. Now as a result of this story, what will happen? At a surface level, he understands Papa left us, he abandoned us, he did not love us. That is what he understands on a surface level. On a subconscious level, unknowingly, because of that story, his thinking will become, very soon others will also find I am not lovable. If I come close to someone, if I interact with someone, they will find out I am not lovable. He will start telling himself, everybody whom he loves will leave him because they will find out that he is not lovable. He'll tell himself he should not get close to anyone, because the moment he goes close to someone, they will find out about him. They will abandon him and it will be very painful. So just to be safe, I do not want to be close to people. Now as a result of this, what will happen? He will like someone in college. He will think this girl is the right girl for me. That girl will also feel Raj is the right guy for me. Both will come a little close to each other. And then Raj is this thinking, A, I will be abandoned. B, I am not lovable. And C, let me be safe. Not fall in love and then get hurt. So better create a distance. What will Raj do now? Raj will abandon that girl. He will stop taking her phone calls. He wants to be safe. He abandons that girl. If you look at some toxic behaviors that you have, and all of us have toxic behaviors. If you look at some toxic behavior you have, it is because of the story that you have been telling yourself to make sense of the world. Father abandoned Raj's family and left. The young boy has to say some story to himself to make sense of this experience. ये क्यों हुआ? Now all stories that we say are of two kinds. a story of contamination, जहां हम जो चीज होती है उसको और गंदा कर देते हैं. The fact is, Papa left. If it was like Vikas's mother, she would have surrendered and said, "Upar wale ki kuch to marzi hogi," and she would have carried on with her life with peace in her heart, doing her duties. But somebody else who says contaminated stories to themselves will find a lot of faults, will create a lot of negative feelings, and those negative feelings will create their view of the world, the sense of the world. Our bad behaviors, our habit to cut off from people, our habit not to trust someone, our habit of giving a commitment and then seeing how can we escape that commitment, our habit of pretending to the world what we are not, our habit of praising somebody in present but later on saying ये आदमी ना सही नहीं है. Our habit of making commitment to ourselves and not living by those commitments are all born out of the stories we told ourselves when we went through some experiences of life. पता नहीं मेरे को लोगों को कुछ बोलना चाहिए कि नहीं बोलना चाहिए, क्योंकि वो फिर बहुत सेंसिटिव हो जाते हैं और लोगों को बुरा लग सकता है. इसके लिए I don't think I can be honest in expressing. I should keep my thoughts, my emotions to myself, and I should not be honest in expressing. फिर बहुत सीन खराब हो जाता है. Now, this can be the truth for my father. It may not be the truth for somebody else. But I have told a story to myself which forms my response to the world. That do not be honest in expressions. This is a contaminated story. You start a business. It is in partnership. It does not work well. The fact is, there are some reasons, some business mistakes because of which the business did not work well. But our perception and the story that we tell ourselves can be, मेरे को partnership जमता नहीं. And even if a great opportunity comes, because you have a contaminated thinking, you may not take up that partnership. Let's say Nipun has put a lot of effort in nurturing his shop. They are makers of uniforms and they do good stuff. Now let's say the uniform business for some reason is going through a decline. Let's say the profit margins are shrinking. He's used to doing business in 20% margin and now they're hardly able to make 5% margin. Somebody else comes and tells Nipun, ये एक अच्छा business है, तेरे nature को ना बहुत अच्छे से suit करेगा. The fact is, margins are less in the old business. The fact is, Nipun has put 10 years of hard effort to create that business. The fact is that business is not very profitable. Now comes stories. to make sense of the world and to make sense of his own behavior, Nipun might say, 10 साल इसमें घलाया ना, इसको ऐसे कैसे छोड़ दूं? And Snehaj might be telling Nipun, नहीं बरोबर है आपने 10 साल घलाया, लेकिन अब उसमें फ्यूचर नहीं. जैसे घर में आप बेडशीट लगाते हो, बेडशीट फट जाता है, आप नहीं बोलोगे ना कि 5 साल से वापर रहा हूं, ऐसे कैसे फेंक दूं? उसका यूटिलिटी खत्म हो गया है, आप चेंज करोगे बेडशीट. सिमिलरली ये बिजनेस में उतना मार्जिन नहीं है, इससे घर नहीं चला पाओगे, इससे 2 पैसे नहीं बना पाओगे. बट निपुन, द स्टोरी ही टेल्स हिमसेल्फ माइट अगेन बी, लेकिन इतना मेरा मेहनत में वेस्ट कैसे करूं? कंटेमिनेटेड स्टोरी, मैंने जिसमें मेहनत किया है, मेरे को उसमें से कुछ चाहिए. आई मे नॉट बी एबल टू लेट गो एंड स्टार्ट समथिंग न्यू. एंड द सबकॉन्शियस थिंक इज, मैं नया चीज जल्दी सीख नहीं सकता. द सबकॉन्शियस थिंक इज, वापस उतना मेहनत करना मेरे से नहीं होगा. एंड द स्टोरी वी टेल आवरसेल्व्स will create our behavior. Another person in the same scenario might jump to the next business. The story they tell themselves is, अरे यार इसमें कमाई बहुत ज्यादा है. And they are holding on to that story कि यार इसमें कमाई अच्छा है. निपुण story is, मेहनत वेस्ट हो जाएगा. Everybody has their own stories to make sense of the world in the way in which they can. So one kind of story that we tell ourselves is stories which we call as contaminated stories. The second kind of stories that we call is redemption stories. A contaminated story is taking a negative or taking a positive or a neutral to negative. A redemption story is shifting it to positive. Whatever happens in a redemption story, you tell yourself, ये तो बहुत अच्छा हो गया. In a redemption story, your first thought is, ये तो बहुत अच्छा हो गया. In a contaminated story, the first thought is, ये तो बहुत गलत हो गया. Now imagine, we got delayed in that flight and that flight crashed. Now what's the story we'll tell ourselves? So we have a way of making sense of our life based on the stories that we tell ourselves. You know the deep part? What happened once may never happen again in life. What happened once is not happening right now. But because we are telling ourselves contaminated stories, we relive those experiences multiple times. And as Raj, who's in love, abandons a girl, the story he'll tell himself is, see, I didn't respond to her for 2 days. She's also stopped calling. She has also abandoned me. The fact is, he has abandoned her. But the story he will tell himself is, see, again, somebody left me and went away. And we take our life deeper and deeper into misery. So one day Raj's good phone Ritesh does not pick up the phone. And the story Raj will tell himself is, see, Ritesh is ignoring him. He will now stop calling Ritesh, responding to Ritesh, and he'll again abandon that relationship and have a breakup. Now let's summarize what we have done so far in today's life lesson. We go through life experiences. There are some facts in those life experiences. We need to say stories to make sense of what has happened. We say contaminated stories when we feel that we are not good enough to learn, create, to support, be loved. When we believe that we are not good enough, we tell contaminated stories to ourselves. When we believe we are good and we can handle whatever life throws at us, then we don't say contaminated stories to ourselves, we say redemption stories. We use the word redemption here and not just positive. Redemption in religion, especially in Christianity, means something tremendously wrong happened, and yet a very positive output happened. Somebody did a very big mistake, and yet they became a hero in times to come. Somebody committed a fault, a crime, and they became a very pious person in future. Religion takes grace as the word and says, because Upar Wale ki kripa thi, he redeemed himself or she redeemed himself. So a redemption story, when you tell yourself a redemption story, nothing negative can stop you. Somebody ditches you and goes, somebody accuses you, somebody takes you for granted, but the stories you're telling yourself is redemption stories. You're always finding a way to deal with that in a very powerful, positive way. You don't withdraw yourself from people because 3 people broke your heart. In fact, you love deeper. You don't become scared because you failed. Your courage still stays high. Because you failed, you don't anchor yourself on comfort zone. Because you failed, you realize you have to be in the comfort zone because that is where growth is. Now, all of them are redemption stories. Where even if you are at fault, even if you have done a mistake, you're not defending yourself, you're not being careless about it, but you're seeing a redemption story. And these are the people who will say, मैं उसको मना लेगा, मैं उसको पटा लेगा. Let's say Pranoti, it's her birthday and I want to wish her. And I know how much my wish means to her. But I'm involved in something which is very delicate. Let's say a life schooler's father has gone through a brain stroke. And I would like to be with him and not be on my phone. Because he's kind of in a shock. And when he wants to talk, I shouldn't tell him, "Hey, 2 minutes, मैं ये phone करके आता." So I want to be with that life schooler 100%. And let's say Joe asks me, आज प्रणति का birthday wish किया? And I would say, नहीं यार, wish तो नहीं किया. Joe might say, but you should, I mean, your birthday will really make her day, you should wish her. नहीं करोगे ना, तो बहुत नाराज हो जाएगी. Now my redemption story, if I am a redemption person, would be, अच्छा वो नाराज होगी, होना हक भी बनता है उसका, लेकिन मैं उसको पटा ले. अच्छी बच्ची, 5 मिनट बात करूंगा ना, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. I refuse to tell this story to myself that I will lose this girl in my life. Therefore, out of fear, I have to call. नहीं, मेरे दिल से ना हक की आवाज आती है. मला लेंगे उसको, पटा लेंगे उसको, हो जाएगा. But the stories I tell myself are of redemption and not contamination. Let's say you're driving a car and you accidentally brush against somebody's bike, and that bike fellow falls down and screams, "Ah!" And it's very clear कि fracture हुआ. And you find some people running, "Oye, pakdo, pakdo, pakdo." How I behave now depends on the stories I tell myself. ये सब मेरे को पकड़ेंगे, बहुत मारेंगे, मेरा बहुत नुकसान हो जाएगा, भागो. वर्सेस उसका कितना नुकसान हो गया, लग गया है, गिर गया है, मैं क्राउड को संभाल लूंगा. इसको पहले हॉस्पिटल लेके जाएंगे, उसकी हॉस्पिटल में अच्छे से देखरेख करेंगे, उनकी फैमिली वालों को बुलाएंगे, जो भी अपनी गलती की वजह से होगा अपन उठाएंगे, लेकिन भागेंगे नहीं. Now both kinds of people are there. My behavior will depend on the story I tell myself. The kind of life I live is the perceptions I have on the facts of my life. The kind of life I live is the perceptions I have on the facts of my life. The fact is, the car brushed against the bike, this guy has fallen down, people are screaming, "Pakdo." It's clear that he has broken a bone. These are facts. But मेरे को मारेंगे, मेरी पिटाई होगी, मेरा नुकसान होगा, these are all perceptions. इसको अच्छे से हॉस्पिटल लेके जाना है, इसके घर वालों को बुलाना है, वो लोग जितना गाली मारेंगे सुन लेंगे, लेकिन रास्ते में किसी को ऐसे नहीं छोड़ सकते. क्राउड को संभाल लूंगा. This is also a perception. When we tell ourselves contaminated stories, what happened once does not end. And even if right now that is not valid, I will still live based on what happened once. For example, Raj's father abandoned him. Now these new people in life are not abandoning him. But what happened once? He lives by that. He forms a perception that the same thing will continue forever. And now it does not come close to anybody. Even if he meets a very lovely, genuine, fantastic girl, he will push her away and actually he will abandon her because of the perception he's created, which is a contaminated perception. Somebody goes to the gym, lifts a little extra weight in deadlift, kamar thoda khisking, and now they'll tell themselves stories permanently. Gym is not for me. Gym mein na bahut injury hota hai. And there are thousands of people who are regularly going to the gym are not having any injury. So the fact is, if I do an exercise properly, it helps. If I don't do it properly, it might injure me. That's the fact. But अपने को जिम जमेगा नहीं, जिम बहुत डेंजरस है, जिम नहीं जाना चाहिए. These are all perceptions. 10 years down the line, I want to be fit, gym is the right place for me. But I will still not go. Because I've created a perception for myself and I continue to hurt myself in a very deep way. Stories of contamination helps you to code life negatively. It also always leads to low life satisfaction. We literally become dissatisfied with life. You ask people, how was your day? जवाब ही नहीं देते, सर लटकाएंगे. अरे how was your day? Okay, routine. And if somebody says this regularly, थोड़ा contaminated perceptions है. मतलब we are suffering from something which is not happening right now, which happened a long time ago. It is over, but we are still suffering. On the other hand, somebody who has this redemption style of thinking, we are coding life positively. And in this coding, we assure ourselves of love, happiness, excitement, growth. Unfortunately, unknowingly, we develop perceptions of life. That's why an Arunima Sinha loses her leg, goes on to climb Mount Everest. Her stories are the stories of redemption. By the way, if you are a Bob Marley fan, there's a beautiful song called Redemption by Bob Marley. Bob Marley, M-A-R-L-E-Y, not Bob Marley. So don't do in the internet search on Bob Marley. Bob Marley. So fundamentally, most of us are just reacting to life based on certain perceptions that we have developed for ourselves. What we need to do is respond to life. And in responding, we separate the facts from perceptions. As I think negative, as I think this is not good, that person is not right, let me separate the fact from perceptions. And based on facts, let me make the choices. The 5 different people who responded differently in your life. Remember how we began today's session? You made a small list. Those 5 you will find are either telling contaminated stories or redemption stories all the time. You are also either saying contaminated stories or redemption stories all the time. If it is redemption stories that you tell yourself, you will grow quite a lot. Nothing will stop you. You will make relationships effortlessly. You will fundamentally look forward to everything that life has to offer. Break the pattern of contaminated stories and replace it with redemption stories. Break the pattern of contaminated stories and replace it with redemption stories. Contaminated stories, in the example of Nipun, will say, इतना साल मेहनत किया, अभी कैसे छोड़ दूं? A redemption story would say, चलो मालूम पड़ गया कि यहाँ पे फ्यूचर नहीं है, 1 साल बाद मालूम पड़ता तो और दिक्कत होता था, आज ही समझ गया ना, आज ही कुछ एक्शन ले, चल कुछ नया सोचना चालू कर. The fact is, let's say somebody over here is 60 years old. That's a fact. But because you are 60, you cannot do A, B, and C. Now that might be a contaminated story. So normally what do? Contaminated stories or redemption stories? If you are saying contaminated stories, I don't need proof. But if you are saying, मैं तो redemption stories, then I would ask you, okay, tell me what was negative and how did you convert it into positive? Not just acceptance. You redeemed it. Coupon मिलता है ना, 500 रुपया, you have to go and redeem it. तो तुम्हारे पास नेगेटिव हुआ, उससे तुमने डील कैसे किया वो अलग बात है, उससे तुमने हिस्टोरिकल रिजल्ट्स बनाए वो अलग बात है. लेट मी पॉज ओवर हियर एंड ओपन द फ्लोर टू एनी क्वेश्चंस दैट यू माइट हैव. Anybody, any questions on this? As I was speaking about this for last about 1.5 hours, did your mind give you any question?
I want to ask you something.
Yes, Nipun.
Yes. Now, both scenario. In the case of that Raj, 3 people left him, and a girl come and she proposed her, and he might feel 3 people left me. She is loving me, and he do so much love to her, which can cause problem. In my case, which can cause problem. Too much love is also problem.
Example, क्या problem होगा बता?
If she loves too much, if he loves too much to that girl, and that girl might not like that. She felt like he is so much possessive about me.
Okay. So, okay. I understand now what excess love is. Huh.
Okay. In the my case, whatever you give the example, uh, that profit margin goes less. I thought the another business is good, and I shift to that, and I might focus on too much on that, and my the all life went into that only, and I'm not able to concentrate on any other version of my life. How to deal with this?
Did you get married?
Yes,
कितना दिन काम वाम कुछ नहीं किया, सिर्फ मैरिज का प्रिपरेशन में लगा था?
महीना 1.5 महीना.
शादी के बाद कितने दिन काम वाम कुछ नहीं किया, एकदम मस्त पोस्ट
15-20
मैरिज नशा? हाँ,
15-20 दिन.
फिर ये 2-3 महीना you were lopsided only towards one and the other parts of your life went for a toss. Is it worth it?
Yes.
Similarly, anything you start, you will have to devote yourself to that at least for some time. If you do that, then balance happens. अच्छा, by the way, वापस काम करना चालू किया? तो टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस था ना? टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस तो होगा ही ना डार्लिंग.
अच्छा.
तू क्रिकेट देखता है? किसको फॉलो करता है?
सचिन तेंदुलकर, विराट कोहली.
सचिन तेंदुलकर, ये अनिल तेरे आपके भी दादाजी के टाइम का है. नाउ ओनली हार्दिक पांड्या, केएल राहुल और वो विकेट कीपर क्या नाम है बच्चा जो है, हाँ, पृथ्वी,
ऋषभ पंत.
अभी ये सब नाम है. तो किधर विराट कोहली तो रिटायरमेंट के टाइम में आ गया. बट एनीवे, डू यू नो, हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ दिस कॉन्सेप्ट कॉल्ड बायो बबल?
यस.
क्या होता है वो?
एक वर्चुअल बबल होता है जिसमें प्लेयर्स को रखते हैं और बाहर के लोग अंदर नहीं जा सकते, अंदर के लोग बाहर नहीं जा सकते.
परफेक्ट. The number of people they will interact gets restricted. Correct? That's a bio bubble. Very good. अभी इनको मालूम है कि इनका करियर जो है 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल, 4 साल रहता है, और उसके अंदर उनको जितना पैसा बनाना है उसके साथ पूरी जिंदगी उनको निकालनी है. तो अगर 3 साल बायो बबल में रहता है और कोई 15-20 करोड़ रुपए कमा लेगा, चलेगा वो कि बोलेगा नहीं 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 नहीं, मेरे को टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस भी नहीं चाहिए, मैं तो रोज शाम को घर जाऊंगा, बीवी के हाथ का रोटला खाऊंगा. क्या बोलते हैं निपुण?
नहीं, बायो बबल अच्छा लगेगा
ना? So when you start a new business, because you don't know enough of that business, तुमको ज्यादा टाइम तो देना ही पड़ेगा उसको समझने के लिए, काम करने के लिए. उस समय अगर लाइफ में टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस है, इट्स परफेक्टली ओके. इनफैक्ट टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस होना ही चाहिए, क्योंकि नया है, काफी कुछ सीखना है. अभी तुम भक्ति नहीं करोगे तो कैसे होगा? ठीक है निपुण?
यस.
So if there's a temporary imbalance, perfectly okay. Or you have to be like Sidhu who says, बाबा ये मैरिज का टेम्पररी इम्बैलेंस नहीं चाहिए मेरे को. ये 2-3 महीना भी मैं नहीं निकाल सकता, मेरे क्लाइंट्स को सर्विस कौन देगा? Yes, darling. Anybody else? Any question on this? Because you had something?
Yeah, Naren, the response, redemption response comes at a time or comes in an experience when that person looks up to you. For example, I remember in my past, my family was going through a financial challenge. My uncle had done some mistake, and at that point of time, you had shared one statement, parenting our parents करके.
हाँ, correct.
statement changed my life, and I took the responsibility of the entire loan and everything that went up. यही अगर statement, because you looked up to me, you believed into me, and I could respond in a redemption manner at that point of time. On the contrary, when people have a contaminated thought with you, automatically what I now experience, what I think, कि वही contamination response ही आता है. It should not be, might be, it should, I understand, but this is where the response has been. But with today's understanding, I think toxic behavior, what you said, is the reason where contamination response, and I also respond in a contaminated manner. And when a person looks up to you in a redemption manner, you want to live up to his expectation, and you give your best. You give your best. So that clarity, I think, थोड़ा सोच के समझ में आएगा ज़्यादा.
Yeah. What also happens, Vikas, is we don't analyze after the experience to find out what was the fact and what is the perception. तुम एक बार एनालाइज कर लोगे ना कि यार ये फैक्ट है और ये मेरे परसेप्शंस है, then it's difficult to walk on the path of contamination. But when you start assuming your perceptions as facts, then you are helplessly in contamination mode. मुझे मालूम है ये ऐसा ही है, फिर तो तुम निकलोगे नहीं, बिकॉज फैक्ट तो चेंज नहीं हो सकता. द फैक्ट इज ऑल ऑफ अस आर अटेंडिंग लाइफ लेसन राइट नाउ, ये तो चेंज नहीं हो सकता. परसेप्शन चेंज हो सकता है, तुम फैक्ट को कैसे चेंज करोगे? सो व्हेन यू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग परसेप्शन इज अ फैक्ट, you are completely closed, you don't want to change, you are not open, you don't even want to discuss that. And hence the importance of surrounding yourself with redemption people, positive people, where you feel energized and excited, and you can say, हाँ ये भी एक possible response हो सकता है. And that's why we did the exercise right in the beginning. See, the same situation, there are 4-5 possible responses. उसमें से जो contamination वाला response है वो drop कर दो, उसको मत अपनाओ, और जो redemption response है उसको पकड़ लो. And that's how you have much better control of it. Okay, now some questions have come in the chat box. I will take those up. Then I see Kamal's hand, I will go to Kamal. Arshad is saying, now the story has changed. I don't believe the change story is time to time. Very sweet. Very much a fact. Especially if we have been hurt enough number of times, or we have hurt ourselves through our perceptions. वो छोड़ने का मन नहीं करता है, because it means कि आज तक जो hurt था वो गलत था, वो पूरा waste हो गया. I know enough people, even if they're on the wrong path, but because they've been driving for a long time, they know the path is wrong, but still they do not find it possible for them to change. Because the story they tell themselves is, what if the other line is also wrong? तो कम से कम यहाँ wrong है, मुझे मालूम तो है, चलने दो उसमें. It's very strange. But then that is a fact. After reacting, we realize that the true facts later than guilt is more. How to overcome this? So, Tyra, develop this ability to separate facts and perception and discuss this with people. कि मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है, अच्छा बताओ इसमें fact क्या और इसमें perception क्या? Papa left us and went away. He abandoned us. And if the person with whom you're talking says, हाँ तेरे साथ बहुत बुरा हुआ, फिर तो you're gone, because they are also seeing your perception as a fact that Papa abandoned. But the fact is Papa left. उसमें abandonment is the judgment I am giving on the fact. The fact is he was scared. The fact is he was very responsible and wanted to protect you. So when you are with people who are positive, people who say redemption stories, they will show you कि ऐसे भी सोच सकता है. When you stay with these people, slowly you will find you yourself will be able to understand ये fact है और ये perception. How to handle the guilt of the past? Now, don't have perception that it does not mean you are not good enough, you jump to conclusions, you're always reactive. नहीं, वो सब past में था. Now tell yourself redemption stories. Redemption story बोलो तो सही. तब overcome कर पाओगे, नहीं तो नहीं कर पाओगे. Sally asks how to convert contaminated stories into redemption stories. Is it possible? Of course. By the way, the story of Raj that I am saying is a true story. Of course, the name has been changed. There is a life schooler. Last week we were having a meeting, and in the meeting he said, Naren, people call me khadus. People call me rude. But tell me, my father abandoned me when I was 5 years old. And we had 3 siblings and a mother. मेरे से बड़ा भाई 8 साल का है, मैं 5 साल का, मेरे से 2 छोटे. And then, of course, he spoke about how much pain the family has gone through. And he says, I am khadus because I don't trust anybody. जब बाप ही हमारा नहीं है तो फिर और किसको ट्रस्ट करने का? And then I asked him, do you trust me? He said, of course, that's why I'm sharing with you. As I say, you can outgrow it. And then we had this discussion, what is the fact and what is the perception? Papa left is a fact. He abandoned you is a judgment on that fact. And I challenged him, why don't you call your father once and say, I want to talk with you. And I just want to understand. आप क्यों गए? हो सकता है जितना तुम्हारे अंदर गुस्सा है उससे ज्यादा तुम्हारे पापा के अंदर अफसोस है. उस समय दिमाग काम नहीं किया, छोड़ दिया. अब उनको इतना शर्म आता है कि परिवार के पास वापस कैसे जाऊं. हो सकता है इट्स टाइम फॉर अ रिडेम्पशन स्टोरी. एक फोन तो कर, बात तो कर, एक बार मिल तो सही. कुछ नहीं हुआ तो पुराना स्टोरी तो है ही अपने पास, लेकिन कुछ नया हो गया तो. He called his father. First he met his father, then the father met his mother, and it's been such an extraordinary experience in the last few hours for me. The family is wanting to stay together. He had got scared that पूरे परिवार का ध्यान नहीं रख पाएगा. Out of fear, he ran away. And after 1 month, he realized he's done a mistake, but he did not have the courage to come back to his family. Because the mother went to her brother's place and the brother took care of them well, brother educated them well. Now the father is thinking, अब मैं वापस कैसे जाऊं? So is redemption story is possible? Absolutely possible. When is it possible? When you have an open mind. When you are willing to see what are the possible alternative stories besides the stories you have always told yourself. This is the story I have always told myself. Let me read something very beautiful to you that I got yesterday from someone. Manya Singh from UP has been voted as Femina Miss India first runner-up. And here is a story which I'll read to you in case some of you have not heard about it. Manya writes, I am the daughter of a rickshaw driver. I've spent numerous nights without food and sleep. I've spent many afternoons walking for miles on end. Being a rickshaw driver's daughter, I never had the opportunity to attend school, as I had to start working in my teens. When she was 12 years old, she started working. All the clothes I had were hand-me-downs. I longed for books, but luck wasn't in my favor. My parents mortgaged whatever little jewelry my mother had to ensure that I pay my exam fees in order to earn a degree. My mother has suffered a lot to provide for me. At 14 years of age, I even ran from home. I did work and I completed my studies. I would wash dishes in the evening and worked at a call center in the night. भांडे मांजती थी. And she was working in the call center in the night. For what? To study. I walked hours to reach places so that I could save the rickshaw fare. Today I stand here before all of you at the VLCC Femina Miss India 2020 stage to uplift my father, mother and younger brother and to show to the world that all is possible if you are committed to yourself and to your dreams. Contaminated story, redemption stories. I'm a rickshawala's daughter. This is a fact. Now what's the perception I'll create? What's the story I'm telling myself? Therefore what? I can't study. I have no future. I have to get married and settle down. Like my mother, I'll have to clean vessels in somebody's house. Kismat. Or I have a dream and I'm not going to give up. So can contaminated stories be converted into redemption stories? Absolutely. It's your imagination, right? Both is your imagination. You can imagine anything you want. How to do that? Be with the right kind of people. Come every Sunday to life lessons. Analyze your experiences after the experience where you separate the facts and perceptions. And if you have to tell perception stories to yourself, let it be redemption stories and not contaminated stories. After reacting, we realize the true facts later than guilt is more how to overcome. Already told. Manisha. Contaminated stories to make us inferior. Some people always do. What to do with them? They are in family, one member, close family, how to avoid or deal because of jealousy and can't avoid member as family members. People in the world can give you one story, they can give you one thought. On that, you through your imagination can build as many thoughts as you require. Nobody can stop you from thinking about something 10 times. So if I look at a Shefi and I tell Shefi, तेरे से नहीं होगा. मैंने अपना perception तो एक story में बताया ना उसको. I gave her only one thought. Now she can create 10 thoughts. She can go to a Joe and ask Joe, भाइयों ऐसा बोल रहे हैं, आपको क्या लगता है? And Joe would say, तेरे को क्या करना है? What is the future you want? She would say, I want to be very successful. She would say, then believe in that and give it 100% shot. Then she can go to Iris and say, Iris, This is what has been told. I know what to do, but I'm still a little confused. And Iris will say, my child, you can achieve the impossible. Surround yourself with those kind of people. We have a lovely family called the Badgujar family. Rohini, Vishal are the kids. Kailash is the father. Day before yesterday, mother and daughter came to office. And I looked at Rohini's mother and says, "Arey, itni dubli ho gayi." And I told her the statement which I believe every Marathi mulgi loves. Tu bharik jhalis. She has lost 10 kgs in 2 months. She is 50 plus. 10 kgs in 2 months. She has a very strict exercise guide, very strict, who makes her exercise for 2 hours every day. Compulsory. And normal diet. Think, let's burn the fat. And now Rohini is saying, I'm following my mother, I have also lost some. I said, some matlab? She said, I have lost only 8. 2 months, 8 kgs. Now what's the story they were thinking? And they would have told themselves redemption stories. Abhi dekho. तो ये तो completely अपने control में, किसी और के control में नहीं है. You can't avoid your family member. Yeah, some of us have been blessed with great people around us. What is not in our control, let's not give it too much bhav. What is in our control, give that enough bhav. Come every Sunday to life lessons. You will get enough energy to tell redemption stories for the rest of the week. Be actively involved with some positive people, like your own brother, Pankaj, and like many others present over here. Redemption story is absolutely possible. Non-violent communication is a way to communicate facts and not fall into perception. Absolutely right, Monica. And it's brilliant. Some of you who want to take a deeper dive into that, check out this. They've also called it as NVC, non-violent communication. It's a very, very powerful way of communicating. Like if we have time today, we will do another thing. It's already 8:48. Maybe I'll reserve it for next Sunday. Let's see how fast I can complete this now. If we have 5 minutes, we are going to do another exercise by which I'll give you a little glimpse of non-violent communication. One-to-one dealing is easy, but what approach to take when it comes to group? Be in that group for limited time. And second, develop the ability to ask questions. You ask the right question to the group, you take it in a direction. For example, when the group is saying, India mein bahut problem hai, bahut corruption hai, just ask them one question. Tell me one country in the world where corruption is less, where you think it's a brilliant government. Let's say the answer is New Zealand. Ask them that if you have to become the citizen of New Zealand, what needs to be done? जाना उधर और सेटल डाउन हो जाए, हम लोग भी आ जाएंगे पीछे पीछे. Stay in India and make it better, or leave India and make it better. Don't stay over here and make it worse. So live in India and make it better, or leave India and make it better. But don't stay here and worsen it. Now in a group, you become that force, that catalyst, where contaminated stories stop and redemption stories start. So what's the role that I am playing today in life lessons? In a way, many of us are in the trap of contaminated stories. Through exercise, through discussions, we are increasing our awareness. and let's say about 100 plus people over here, we are attempting to shift to redemption stories. So I'm doing this effort in a group right now. Have that kind of an authority and power and position in your group where if you want to speak, people should listen. If not, then you have to analyze how much time, how much energy, how much effort do you want to give to that group. Nishant is asking, does everyone who challenges our imaginations are part of contamination group? No, not at all. You have an imagination which is unreasonable, unrealistic, and if somebody challenges it, they are not your contamination at all. You are staying in your safety zone, comfort zone. If somebody challenges and says you can do better, they are not in your contamination zone. And chances are they are reacting to who you are as a person. If you are a person who gives big claims but does not deliver, next time if somebody tells you, "Kya tu bahut zyada baat karta hai, kaam to kar," they are not a contamination zone at all. They are a response to how you have been living your life. So let the focus not shift to other people. The whole idea about the life lesson is to shift the focus to us, ourselves. The focus is not whether dad abandoning was right or not. The focus is on how should I analyze this entire thing. So be powerful, be strong. Stay in denial mode. Okay, that's an observation. Jiggy, can it be possible that on the same situation, one person would have a contaminated response and the other would have a redemption response? Absolutely, hai na? Because when Vikas said, Papa might say, "Ya tu purana vapar," and somebody else might say, "Arey koi baat nahi yaar, you deserve the best things in life." So the response is obviously different. How to analyze the situation which could get into a stalemate situation? When you are a great communicator, you understand it's a stalemate right now because people are emotional. I will begin this conversation again tomorrow in a different angle. If there is stalemate, be a little patient. And if possible, let me see if I can give you one technique today. How to deal with a stubborn friend with a contaminated perception. All the questions have been taken care of. Now here is a technique, and this technique was being discussed yesterday between me, Joe and Vijay Rathi. Let's say we play a game, and in that game, I ask you to do something which you believe is not right. And the challenge is you cannot say no. Now what would you do? You care for the relationship. You love the person. You want to be in that relationship. You also want the relationship to be on a positive note. You don't want them to feel rejected. They might be emotionally vulnerable. If you say no to them, they might tell contaminated stories to themselves for the rest of their life. तुम मना नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन तुमको मना करना है. तुम नो नहीं बोल सकते हैं, but you actually have to tell them no. क्या करोगे? Okay, here's my guidance. You tell them and, A-N-D, and. What do I mean by this? Let's say a friend goes to Snehaj and tells Snehaj, "Kya Snehaj, मेरे को 10,000 रुपए देना जरूरी है, मैं तेरे को 7 दिन में वापस देता हूँ." And just yesterday Snehaj was telling him, "Boss, मैं तो अपने पास कभी भी 25,000 रुपए इमरजेंसी पैसा रखता है, क्योंकि कभी कुछ हो जाए, नहीं हो जाए तो पैसा तो होना चाहिए. मैं कभी भी बिना पैसे के नहीं देता. 25,000 तो मेरा इमरजेंसी कैश रहता ही है." अभी अगले दिन मैंने उसको बोल दिया, "यार 10,000 देना, 7 दिन में देता हूं." क्या करेगा वो? He can't say no. He has to give me a response by using the word and. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इट कैन बी 10,000 चाहिए, क्या जरूर मिल जाएगा। इसके अलावा और क्या क्या हेल्प चाहिए? व्हाट एल्स डू यू नीड एज हेल्प? So what will get solved through this 10,000? And how will you have cash surplus in the future? स्नेह उनको परेशान कर सकता है क्वेश्चंस पूछ के। And he'll say, and और क्या चाहिए बताओ ना। Now the moment you give and as an option, the other person now cannot be hurt by you. Even if they are emotionally vulnerable, they cannot create contaminated stories in their head against you. So once upon a time, Jiggy was in civil construction. So let's say I tell Jiggy that Jiggy यार ये 5 फ्लोर का बिल्डिंग है, मेरे को 5 महीने के अंदर चाहिए यार। So Jiggy says प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है, पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, 5 महीने में कैसे होगा? अभी तो ड्राइंग भी नहीं आया है, रॉ मटेरियल भी नहीं आया है, BOQ भी नहीं बना, बिल ऑफ क्वांटिटीज भी नहीं बना है। वो सब करने में 1-1.5 महीना लग जाएगा। 21 दिन तो कम से कम एक स्लैब को लगता ही है। फिर इंस्पेक्शन, ये वो 8 महीना लगेगा कम से कम। माई फर्स्ट थॉट विल बी कितना नेगेटिव आदमी है, पॉजिटिव ही नहीं सोचते। ऑल्टरनेटली जिगीज आंसर वुड बी, अरे 5 महीने में बहुत मजा आएगा काम करने में, आज तक किया नहीं लेकिन ये 5 महीने में डिलीवर करने में बहुत मजा आएगा। और क्या चाहिए आपको साइट? एंड देन ही सेज चलो 5 महीने में दिया, मेरे को 3 महीने में फिर ड्राइंग अप्रूवल चाहिए, वो तो आपके हाथ में आप करवा लोगे। फिर BOQ आपके एक्सपीरियंस के हिसाब से कितना लगना चाहिए, उसका 70% माल अपना तुरंत 48 आवर्स में डलवा दो। और एक काम करो, मेरे को ना आप एक 10 लाख रुपए एडवांस दे दो, ताकि मैं जो लेबर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर है ना उसको 5 लाख एडवांस सामने भेज दूं। फिर क्या है कि जब तक मटेरियल आएगा तब तक अपने साइट में ना आदमी लोग भी आ जाएंगे। और मेरे को क्या लगेगा आपसे सपोर्ट। आई टेल हिम बॉस, मतलब ये मना नहीं कर रहा है मेरे को, एंड वेरी पॉजिटिवली इज ड्रीमिंग 5 महीने के अंदर अगर करना है तो ये मेरे को सपोर्ट चाहिए, और ये सब मिल गया ना तो 5 महीने में ये तो हो ही जाएगा। साथ में अपन ना वो शो फ्लैट भी बना देंगे, क्लब हाउस में ना एक वो फ्लैट भी बना देंगे, दोनों काम हो जाएगा 5 महीने। Now the ball is back to my court, that I have to raise 10 lakhs and give to him. I have to bring the material and dump it onto the site. I will have to give him clearance within 3 days. He is not a negative person. He does not tell no to me. He tells me for all that to happen, this is what is your game and this is the rest is my game. आप अपना गेम खेलो, मैं बाकी का खेलता है। Without saying that in a rude manner, कि पहले you do your stuff. Then stalemate happens, argument happens, blood happens. But start using the word and. Instead of saying no, say and. Okay? Shoot me a question and let's see what I do with that. Tell me something where the obvious answer from me should be no. And let's see how we do that. Just 1 or 2 scenarios. Come on, think. Would you eat 25 gulab jamuns? Yes, why not? बहुत मजा आएगा। इनफैक्ट गुलाब जामुन के साथ में along with गुलाब जामुन थोड़ा अपन फरसान भी रखेंगे। And what we will do is, along with gulab jamun, we will also have lunch after that. Let me just reduce my weight by another 15 kgs. And then we will definitely do this. पक्का करेंगे, 100% करेंगे। मैं मना नहीं करूंगा। मेरे को तो एंड बोलना है। yes से जवाब देना है. Through a yes, I will have to say no. Shefu?
Okay, another scenario. Would you come to the wedding of a loved one where alcohol is served?
100%. I would love to come there. What we are going to do is, we will ensure this wedding happens in Paris. And Paris, you don't get water as such. No, wine and liquor is what is happening. And it's a part of their culture. You fund my trip to Paris. And after that, another 15 days Europe tour. And since I'll be also traveling to London and जो लंदन की है उसका काम है वो, तो मैं और जो दोनों रहेंगे. And Bharti has told me today how much she misses me, especially on Sundays. I don't want her to miss me. Me, जो भारती और फिर 2 बच्चों को बाकी के छोड़े. फुल फैमिली जाएगी, 5 लोग आएंगे, एक 20-25 दिन का ट्रिप बनाएंगे. तू बोल कब करना है बोल. Now let's put Sidhu in a spot. Huh? Sidhu, let's get you married. Sidhu, your response. Let's get you married in 2021 itself. हाँ सिद्धू, तेरे लिए अच्छी लड़की भी ढूंढी हमने.
Naren, I want to complete my world tour. So, first of all, I will travel all the countries. I think minimum 140 countries I need to travel.
हाँ.
So, till it get completed, then you think about it.
तूने yes नहीं बोला, तूने and नहीं बोला. शुरू करने का yes बोल के. Arshad Doshi is just writing, I am ready to sponsor for Sidhu. Arshad is not ready to sponsor Shefu's remating to the same husband where we will be traveling to Europe. Arshad, तू सही आदमी है, एकदम सही बंदा है तू. I am telling you, it's a brilliant tool. Any one of you who wants to move into leadership position, you need to have this ability. You will always have to work with some people who are naturally constipated, naturally contaminated. दूसरों के दुख से सुख से उनको तकलीफ होती है. They are constipated people. And their perception of the world is everybody is against them. And you are a leader. So you'll have to deal with such people. So if you tell no to them, तुम्हारा काम अटक जाएगा. So whenever you have to say no, begin with a yes. And you cannot use the word but. You can use the word and. Sidhu could have answered by saying, Naren 100% करेंगे, 100%. दिल में एक छोटी सी ख्वाहिश है, मेरी शादी में कम से कम 5,000 लोग आए. मतलब मेरे को ये 100, 200, 500 वाला नहीं करना. मेरी दूसरी ख्वाहिश है कि आई विल डू क्राउड फंडिंग मैरिज. खुद की शादी में खुद का खर्चा तो दुनिया करता है. मेरी शादी में इतने लोग एक्साइटेड है ना, इतने लोगों का ये मिशन है सिद्धू को शादी कराना. तो आईपीएल के जैसे टाइटल स्पॉन्सर्स अगर होते हैं ना, मेरे शादी का भी ऐसे होगा, ऑक्शन करूंगा, ऑक्शन. आप उसमें मेरे को हेल्प करना, ठीक है? और मतलब बहुत अच्छा फंड रेजिंग हो जाएगा. और एक काम करूंगा, 10% ऑफ द फंड्स रेज्ड एज सीएसआर आई विल डोनेट फॉर कीप मूविंग मूवमेंट. मतलब कितना मजा आएगा. नरेन, चलो ये ड्रीम वेडिंग अपन ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं. टेल मी व्हाट रोल डू आई हैव टू प्ले बिसाइड्स गेटिंग रेडी फॉर मैरिज. अभी लोगों को ये समझ में आया, ये हमको खाना नहीं खिलाएगा, हमको 10 और लोगों को खाना खिलाना पड़ेगा. नहीं ये ऐसे ही ठीक है यार, आजकल कभी कभी तो लेके जाता है जैन भवन वगैरह खाना खिलाने के लिए सब दोस्त लोगों को. डेवलप दिस टेक्निक. I think today we have discussed some mind-blowing things in life lesson. And you will have to tell me, could I live up to the promise that I made in the beginning of the life lesson? That when we complete today's life lesson, all of you would have something by which your life might completely change. You know, I look forward to life lessons because it gives me such an extraordinary opportunity to keep thinking the entire week. Thanks to life lessons, it keeps my life very exciting. I pray that it was useful for you. Those of you who are there in that 10 and 20 Life School family group, do share your takeaways so that it inspires a few more people to come for the next life lesson. Have an exceptional day. Celebrate with your loved ones. Today is Valentine's Day. And I will see you next week with yet another brilliant life lesson. Bye. Love you all. Happy night.